Hi, Tyler from Infidelity here. Today we're going to talk about America's #1 top-selling headphone. The Cowin E7 full-size wireless Bluetooth noise-canceling headphone for $69. This is Amazon's top-selling headphone. I heard from somebody in the industry I trust the other day that Amazon sells 40% of all headphones sold in America, which is just an astonishing number. And this is their top seller. So I had to give it a try. $69, why not? Wondering if the masses know how to pick a winner. Okay, so this is the Cowin E7 headphone. Has, of course, at $69, and being a noise canceller and a wireless headphone to boot, you can't expect incredible build quality and materials. And frankly, it's actually a little bit better than I expected. The leather, the synthetic leather padding of the headband and the ear pads is actually fairly good feel to it. It's just not kind of a plasticky hard feel or anything like that, so that's pretty good. The ear cup hole size is about average, but the depth is a little shallow. Feels a little confining when you put them on. Caliper pressure is a little bit high, but I did stretch out the headband a little bit like that and relieve that pressure. But I still found that they were a little bit uncomfortable on the top of the head, on the top of my head. They are a little bit heavy, so I did get a little bit of a hot spot up here because this foam is not memory foam. None of this is memory foam. Of course, it's just regular old cheap foam. So comfort is just, I wouldn't call it painful, but I would call it clumsy. The ear pad hinges, they don't clunk around too much, and they move relatively freely, but once you put a little bit of pressure on them, like when it's on your head, then they increase in their friction quite a bit. And as a consequence, once you put them on your head, you do have to fidget with the ear cups forward and back in particular to get them to set right. The extension arms are on detents, but they're kind of sticky and inconsistent in how much friction they take. So these headphones don't go on your head really effectively and with very much ergonomic usability. Let's see, the headphones have controls mostly on the right earpiece. There is a off, Bluetooth, and then noise canceling switch to turn them on. And there is this triangular inset right here which has controls on it that are surprisingly counterintuitive. These two corners of this triangle to the front run the volume up and down, but you have to push and hold for the volume to go up. After about 2 seconds or a second, it'll start ratcheting up in steps, about 1 per second. And counterintuitively, the top one runs the volume down and the bottom one runs it up. In Bluetooth mode, if you just push once, it goes track forward and track back with that switch. This corner of the triangle is the play, pause, answer phone button. So I found the switching on this thing to be a little counterintuitive, but it worked. And the cable connection for the headphone on the right earpiece is a little bit aft of center, which means that the cable will come down kind of backwards, going backwards, and cause the cable to interfere with your shoulder a little bit. So that's a little less than ergonomic. The cable is 48 inches long, which is just a tad short. I usually like it about 4.5 feet instead of 4 feet, but that's close enough. Straight connectors on both ends. There is no remote on it. There's also a USB charging cable and a flappy plastic faux leather bag with a drawstring on it. You can order a harder shell case, clamshell case from Cowin online. I can't remember the price of it, but there's a link in the article on Interfidelity for that product. The sound quality of these headphones is actually better than I expected. Of course, I expected absolute garbage, horrific, painful sound, which it's not. But it's not really very good sound. What happens in these headphones is there was a time when you plugged the cable in, it just went full passive mode and the noise canceling was not able to be activated. You couldn't turn the electronics on basically once you plugged it in, and that's fairly common. Unfortunately, people complained to Cowin that they couldn't turn the noise canceling on when it was in wired mode. And so Cowin's solution, in order to be able to keep all the buttons and switching exactly the same, was to have the cable interrupt the output of the Bluetooth section and just go into the active electronics subsequently, the noise canceling circuit and the headphone amplifier circuit, which means that when you plug the wire in, these headphones have to be on for it to work. In other words, if you run out of battery power, you can't use the cable. You have to have the headphones turned on in order to use the cable. The good news is that it will operate both in Bluetooth and in wired mode while it's being charged. There's a number of headphones that don't allow that, which I always think is weird. So you can listen to them while it's charging. As a consequence of the fact that it runs on Bluetooth 4.0, which is pretty good audio quality, so as a consequence, when you run in wired mode or Bluetooth mode using noise canceling, the two modes sound about the same. When you turn the noise canceling off, the two modes sound the same because you're always going through the electronics on these headphones. So wired and Bluetooth noise canceling mode and wired and Bluetooth non-noise canceling mode sound roughly equivalent. So I'm going to talk about the sound quality in noise canceling mode and then non-noise canceling mode. So in non-noise canceling mode, the electronics are on, but the noise canceling is off. In non-noise canceling mode, it has a lot of bass boost, about 10 dB, and the center frequency of that bass boost is like 200 hertz. So it's essentially boosting the low mid-range as much as it is the bass. And the bass after below 100 hertz starts to roll off, so bass extension isn't very good. It's fairly distorted, not horribly distorted, but more than normal. So it's going through the electronics, which means it's being capacitively coupled, so there's a pretty good phase shift through the bass. The bass is just a big, woolly, bloated, inarticulate blob. So it's not very good bass quality at all, and it bleeds significantly into the mid-range. The mid-range from about 400 hertz to 1,000 hertz, let's say, or thereabouts, 2,000 hertz. The mid-range is actually relatively well balanced. However, since the low mid-range is so bloated with the bass, it's really hard to appreciate that relatively balanced mid-range through the rest of the part, and it's just relatively balanced. There's just no real, big problems. There's no boxiness there and stuff like that. And then the treble, basically from the mid-treble on up, from about 4 kilohertz up, the treble is somewhat accentuated in these headphones, so it has kind of a zingy sound to it. And that accentuation is more than it should be for the mid-range. So really what you have are these three pretty distinct ranges, this low mids and lower bloated bass, the mid-range, which is okay but hard to hear relative to this big bass, and the treble, the mid-treble on up also being somewhat elevated. And there's three pretty distinct areas of sound in these headphones, so you really don't get a good sense of the whole of the music when it's in this mode. However, It's listenable. There isn't any sharp, piercing, ear-bleeding, treble problems and things like that, which can certainly happen with headphones. So all in all, I would say it's pretty poor sounding. The bass is really the poorest part, but it's not nearly as bad sounding as some headphones I've heard. I mean, it can get a lot worse than this. Frankly, it's a little bit better sounding than I expected, but I expected total garbage, and it's not that. Once you turn the noise canceling on, it's a whole nother thing. Which is mostly big cardboard tubes and old school telephones, as I say in the review. It's very boxy sounding. Once the noise canceling turns on, all of a sudden the mid-range is strongly emphasized. The whole middle of the mid-range from 500 hertz to 1000 hertz and somewhere around that is really accentuated and gives it a very shouty, boxy sound, an old AM radio in your dashboard kind of sound. The bass quality actually improves, but it's now lower in level than the mid-range and than it should be, and so it's really not obvious that it's better because it's so overwhelmed by the mid-range shoutiness. And that accentuated treble is now more realistically in line. In fact, it's also a little bit low in level relative to that mid-range hump. And but it's not an offensive treble. So even though you've got this big shouty mid-range, there's still enough detail around to keep things intelligible. So in the end, you have these two modes of I should add that when you turn the noise canceling on, it does it does attenuate outside sounds from up to about 400 hertz by maybe 10 dB or so, which is not as good as good noise canceling headphones, but it's more than just a regular old passive sealed headphone would provide. In the end, I can't think of any reason to really recommend these headphones. They're cheap, yeah, but if you really need to get rid of outside noise, you can buy a pair of Hi-Fi Man RE400s for $79. They'll provide a lot better isolation. They're in-ear headphones. They'll provide a lot better isolation than these, and they'll sound a lot better. If you don't really need noise canceling headphones, and the only place you really need noise canceling headphones are on airplanes and where there's a lot of low frequency noise, because noise canceling headphones get rid of low frequency noise below 400 or 500 hertz more than high frequency noise. If you really don't need noise canceling headphones, you just want to attenuate some of the outside sound, the Creative Orvana Live are $69 and they sound way better than these headphones. If you can afford a little more and passive isolation is good, the Audio-Technica ATH-M50X is about $149, or the actually it's probably about $120 now, and the Sennheiser HD569 full-size sealed headphone at $179. Both of those headphones are a lot better sounding than this. Of course, they're not noise cancelers, and they're not wireless for that matter. If you want a real noise canceller, a real wireless noise canceller, the lowest amount of money that you could spend, I think, is about $200 or $300. The AKG N60 NC is $299. But to tell you the truth, at that point, if you really need wireless noise canceling headphones, the Bose Quiet Comfort 35 is the way to go. Yes, it's $349. I'm sorry about that. As I say, the Hi-Fi Man RE400 in-ears will deliver a lot better attenuation of outside sound and sound quality than these will, if you can stand sticking something in your ear. At any rate, I just really can't find it in my heart to recommend these, even though they were better than I expected. There's just other ways to go. So there you have it. America's most popular headphone, mediocre, wannabe, blingy. Welcome to America. I hope you don't bother to have a listen to this headphone. Go do something else. We'll see you guys next time.